Hey everyone, welcome to Compass Point. In addition to Sunday messages, I'm offering these middle-of-the-week briefer videos to provide hope and encouragement to you. I'm looking forward to this Sunday's message especially because it's Palm Sunday. It's a very important Sunday in the Christian calendar, a Sunday that introduces Holy Week. It's going to be a very different Palm Sunday and Holy Week for Christians all over the world this year. But I'm looking forward to reflecting with you on the Lord's entrance into Jerusalem and what that really means for all of us even today. For now, I want to reflect a little bit more with you on the will of God. As you know, that was the main focus of last Sunday's message, as we reflected on how God is at work in all things, including this distressing pandemic that we find ourselves in currently. I was intrigued to read an article by N.T. Wright in the most recent issue of Time magazine. N.T. Wright is a prolific writer and preacher and speaker, seminary professor. And in this article, he talks about how in difficult times, rational human beings crave answers that will explain all of the problems. He suggests that those who believe in God may be especially prone to jumping to conclusions that explain why God is doing this to us. Is it a sign? Is it a form of God's punishment? I've no doubt that God is working and speaking to us in and through this pandemic, and I intend to reflect further with you on that in future messages. But the thing I most appreciate about N.T. Wright's article is how he elevates the importance of lament, something that has a long and storied tradition in the Bible and in Christian history. It's especially in the Psalms where we find the plaintive cries of those who experience separation from God, who cry out to Him, "How long, O Lord, will you forget us forever?" Lament is something that he suggests begins in the dark. It doesn't answer our questions, and in fact that's what makes lament lament. It doesn't provide answers to those questions that we ask profoundly. But as he goes on to say, lament, while it begins in the dark, often ends with the light. Many of the Psalms of Lament do this. And so they end with a fresh sense of God's presence and hope, not to explain the trouble, but to provide reassurance within it. So here's a verse from the Gospels that I think connects very well with this. It's in Matthew 10, verse 29. Familiar words, famous words where Jesus says this, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father." It's an intriguing verse, because in the original Greek there is no reference at all to the will of the Father. It simply reads that sparrows, when they fall to the ground, do so not apart from the Father. To make that verse a little bit more fluid, or to make it more plain, translators add that reference to the will of the Father. But I think that only adds a little bit more confusion in the end. Because this verse is assuring us that it's not the will of the Father that's involved in a sparrow's fall or in any other example of suffering. It's the presence of God that matters most. That when we or any creature falls, we do not do that apart from the Father. The best commentary on Matthew 10, verse 29 is the parallel verse in Luke's Gospel, chapter 12, verse 6. "Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies?" Jesus asks. "Yet not one of them is forgotten by God." So it's not so much the will of the Father, but the presence of the Father that matters most. It's as the old spiritual puts it, "His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me." I hope you know that God is with you in all of the lament, the fear, the unanswered questions that we are experiencing right now. I hope you know that He is working in this situation and that His ultimate will is to draw you close to Himself so that you may know His peace, His love, that you may know God Himself. I hope that you experience that presence of God even now. Thanks so much for watching Compass Point. I look forward to seeing you here on Sunday morning.